All right. Hi, Priyanka. Thank you for doing this.
Hi, Puran. Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're going to start, but I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am Priyanka Dharurkar and I have been living in Mumbai and I took up the commerce for my undergraduate studies and I have also completed my MCom Part 1, that is Masters of Commerce Part 1 from Nursing Monji College, which is one of the most reputed college of commerce in India. Further, I also went on to pursue chartered accountancy from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and I have been a fellow member of that particular institute since Jan 2020. And I was particularly excited to take up that field of study, like the commerce as well as the chartered accountancy, because I was inclined towards learning about strategic management, financial management, the entire business and the business economics as well. Also, I have been working with RBL Bank Limited in the risk management department since last 3 years because I wanted to learn more about the analytical and the decision making side of it. And I think that is going to help me in my coming post MBA career goal, which is consultancy. And on my personal front, I have been a trained dancer. I have been trained Indian classical dancers in the Bharatanatyam style, as well as I have also been trained from the Sham Towers Institute, which is kind of a renowned institute for dance in Western and the contemporary dance forms as well. And yeah, I do intend to keep learning more into dance and continue this as my hobby while I'm also going to do my MBA in the coming years. Along with that, I also do love traveling and exploring new and conventional places.
Hey, thank you for that. And I love how you, well, I know it's not an MBA interview. I do love how you answer that question because I think people love to meet other people who are multidimensional,
Right.
and not just about their career. And I think your track record in Bharatanatyam sounds actually very impressive. So
Right, because I think giving a little flavor about what I do personally or what are my personal interests, I think that also would matter because with my career, I would be pursuing that as well because that is going to help me make a right balance between my studies and the career as well. Yeah.
yeah, and I agree with you. I think whether it's business schools or whether it's just life, people would just want more balance. And I think it's really important to show that aspect of yourself. So,
Right, right.
cool. Let's start with why you decided to apply to business school in the first place. What was your motivation there?
Okay, so when I was doing chartered accountancy itself, I had the plans of doing MBA from before because I had heard from my colleagues, also from my cousins so one of my cousin has already done an MBA from one of the Ivy League schools in US and he was pretty impressed by his career graph and everything. So I already had that motivation, but I just didn't want to become a graduate in the commerce background. So I just thought of doing the CA curriculum first and after that applying for a kind of master's degree in and following the business administration course. So for that I also knew I would require certain kind of work experience, the foundation which would be required to get into one of the reputed business schools. And I also further wanted to develop my skills. The way I told you, I have now been very clear about my goal, which is consultancy. So I really wanted to develop those skills which would be required for consultancy, which are kind of not there in me currently. Also, I want to grow in the personal aspect, like the growth, the soft skills development, or the just development of the confidence level. And I think the overall growth and the connections and the networks, everything. So I think all of that I would definitely get into one single place, which is the business school. So that was my motivation for applying.
Yeah, they're actually very similar to mine from years ago, right? Just kind of similar to you. I just wanted to upgrade my knowledge and like to understand other aspects of business. And for sure, that's one of the biggest things I got. I got to see
Yeah.
things from a
Yeah,
big.
for me, I think this is only one of the value addition which could be added to my current qualification or current career because I don't see a point in doing masters or something else right now when I have already done a chartered accountancy. So I think doing something like an MBA would definitely add a huge value to my professional life.
Yeah, I agree. I think it gives you a good, well-rounded approach to business.
Right.
So good decision.
Thanks.
Cool. So let's start with the application process. Prior to maybe like sitting down and writing the essays, what prep work did you do? What homework did you do prior to the beginning of that process?
Okay, so I think this entire MBA or the entire process for me, it was a truly almost, if I have to say, a year or a year and a half journey. So I think a proper planning is required for this thing, because as everybody knows, it's just in the entire year you can apply only once. It's like either the fall application. So if you miss out that particular term, you directly have to shift to the next year. So you kind of end up wasting 1 year. So I think planning is very important. That is what I also did. And for me, the first thing was concentrating on GMAT. So I had not even like properly researched for schools, but for me it was first just starting off with GMAT and just seeing how do I fare, and what is my GMAT score, and do I need any kind of improvement in that aspect. So my initial few months just went in prepping for GMAT, because I had not started with any classes. I was studying on my own along with my work and everything. So just balancing out those things also did matter to me a lot. But yeah, in the initial months, I focused on GMAT. I cleared my GMAT. The next step for me was researching about schools. I was very clear that I wanted to take up the US geography. I didn't want to opt for any other geography. So for me, it was very clear that I want to search for some of the business schools in the US. So I just started researching schools on the basis of the rankings. I asked my cousins or my colleagues, whoever have had some kind of knowledge in that particular field. And I also then started searching for consultants, because I think this is some process which is not usually applicable in the Indian background. At least whatever qualifications I have been through, there was no process like this. It was very clear short. You have to just appear for an exam, you get clear, you get an admission or something like that. So this the huge process which is there. I think you require some kind of support, or at least some kind of advice. So for me, the next step was definitely finding one of the good consultants who would be there throughout this journey with me. And that is how I came across TRP, because I heard about TRP from one of my parents' friends' son. So he recommended about TRP, and I think this was one of my best decisions to join up or enroll with TRP, because they have been there with me throughout till now, and of course going ahead as well. So the next thing what I did was researching about different schools. The ranking of the business school did matter to me a lot. So of course, on the basis of GMAT and the ranking, I researched about schools, their programs. I wanted something which is very unique and which would actually add value to my consultancy career. So on that basis, I shortlisted a few schools, and I think researching schools is also very important. Like, of course, you will talk to the maybe current students or the alumni of those schools. That is also very important. So I also tried to build my connections through LinkedIn and everything. I got the contacts of the students who are currently there or the alumni. I just spoke to them. I read their website, and also then I joined the consultants and had a word with them about which school would be perfect fit for my career. And yeah, that is how I started with the actual application process of finalizing the school, and then from the essays and everything followed.
Priyanka, you've mentioned so many best practices that I want to make sure that they're captured and underscored. That
Right.
one, it is a 1.5 year process. I think sometimes the applicants will come in last minute hoping to get things done in 3 or 4 months, and I feel
Correct.
uh, great advanced planning. I love how you focused on just the GMAT first,
Right.
get the big hurdle out of the way, because
Yeah.
you're balancing work and personal life and an exam now. So get that big thing out of the way. I love how you thought of your career goals first, and then spoke to other consultants to ask them which schools match my goals. That's brilliant. And I
Right.
wish every applicant would do that. It's a really great practice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like you just you outlined the process in step by step in a really great way, which is probably why you've gotten some good offers.
Yeah,
So,
because I think doing all the things together, it will just lead to more and more confusion, which you can't kind of afford in this entire process. So I think we should just give it some time and just take one step at a time, so as you can excel in those particular aspects. Like, it is very important to focus on GMAT. So along with GMAT, you can't just keep on researching schools, obviously, because most of the candidates would be working while they would be giving GMAT. So it's not possible to like juggle with 3, 4 responsibilities. Two at a time, I think, works perfect.
yeah. Are there any other learnings or insights you would love to communicate to future applicants? or best practices you think you want to let them know? Yeah.
Yeah, I will surely do that. I think I have learned a lot of things during this last 1 or 1.5 years of experience, and all of that would I would have to give the credit to my self learning only, because that is how each and every person would be learning. I think each applicant's journey is going to be very different. Their like personal life, their professional life, their the time management schedule, everything would be very specific or unique to each applicant. But I would definitely say few of the things which I learned, or which I would definitely keep in mind for my coming years as well. I think is patience. In this entire journey, you require a lot of patience, because the times are tough. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress during the application, as well as even post application, when you're waiting for the interview invite or the interview call, and even after you give the interview, when you're waiting for the decision. So the entire thing is very stressful, and you are completely into the panic zone, whether I would end up getting or if I would not end up getting, because everything is not in our hands. Even we don't know that what the school is expecting. Maybe you will get admit from one school and you won't get it from the other school, even if both the schools are of the same ranking. So it definitely, it is, I think, somewhere very specific factors also do come into picture. So I think patience and positivity, it matters the most. I think for me, even because TRP was there, and I would specifically like to mention about Preeti. She was my lead consultant, and I think she was so understanding and so upfront. She could actually get the stories which were required for the essays out of me. I think if I would have had to think before on my own, I don't think I could have come up with those solid and those strong stories to make the right kind of impact. So I think she actually, our conversations, it just made me think deep within, like what was needed and what all were my stories. So I think that kind of support, and I always knew if I had some kind of doubt, she was there for any kind of help, or to just she was the one when I had in between, after the application process and before I got the interview invite, I had kind of lost hope that I would get an invite, because a lot of period had passed by. But she was the one who actually used to tell me, don't worry, people do get invites even in the last week or stuff, and she was just keeping on motivating me and trying to make me remain positive. So yeah, so that was a huge help. Also just going through the process, most of the times what happens is we kind of tend to think about the most negative thing that can happen, though it is a good thing, because then you have an alternative or a backup plan made. But I think you should just give it some time and let things happen, and not just start visualizing something which is very negative. And just focus. It will be obviously tough to manage your work as well as this application, as well as the GMAT and everything at once, but I think all these efforts would definitely pay off once you get that admit in your hand, and you would, the entire journey would just sound to be perfect and worth experiencing it. So yeah, so that has been like my experience. But yeah, planning, patience, and positivity, and just the right kind of support is what is needed.
Yeah. You brought up a really great point, which is that the MBA admissions process can be very introspective, and you're right. You have to, each person has their own journey. And I sometimes, I don't know if this is actually true, I sometimes feel like the 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 process of getting into business schools itself a journey. It's like different from business school. It's kind of a whole thing that's quite significant. So, any advice you have for future applicants on what they should or should not do?
My advice would be just plan properly, and it shouldn't be just a haywire plan. It should be a proper plan along with the timelines, because I think that is very important. Normally, what we think is like, okay, suppose I plan right now, in next 6 months, I would be able to like finish off my GMAT, I would be able to finish off my applications, and I would be able to start my course the very next year. But I think that is really tough, because most of the times, normally you would just get time to work on the applications or the maybe the studies and everything only on the weekends, and only few hours on the weekdays, because with work it's not very possible. So I think just start thinking about it at the right moment. Suppose a person knows that he or she wants to start his MBA program at a particular in a particular year, then I think he needs to start planning about it at least 2 years in advance. So to start with the entire process, so that you will remain calm, because a lot of things times it also happens you would not get the desired score in just one attempt. So you might have to keep on repeating the attempts, which is very fair. I think a lot of people tend to do that just to better their prospects. So even for that particular thing, you have to give yourself time. You have to prepare yourself. The kind of exam GMAT is, that is also very competitive. I won't say it is very difficult, but it's just very competitive and very different. So you require a lot of practice. So just give yourself the right amount of time. Also, when you're applying, just be clear about your goals. Like, you should have your goals in place, because that is the very starting step. Almost every business school does ask you about your short term as well as your long term goals, and on that basis only they know whether you would be a right fit for the school or not. Also, you need to have a few of the very meaningful stories. It could be either in your professional life or in your personal life, but there has to be some story. Obviously, it's not possible that every candidate would be having some extraordinary thing happening in their life, but then you need to, like, maybe not in your personal life but in professional life, then you should start taking that leadership skills or the leadership opportunities, and just try developing those particular instances for you, so that those things can be reflected in your application. Because these business schools do take into considerations these aspects, and they give a lot of importance to these aspects as well. Along with that, I would also say, from now onwards, a lot of business schools have also started with the video interview and the actual interviews also. I think in India, very few programs do give that much importance to soft skills or the presentation skills. So I think a lot of candidates do face an issue over here, because writing essays is still fine. You can make the edits, you can take your own time, and you can just maybe put in some longer hours. You can take somebody's help and you can then submit it. But I think video interview, you have to be that conversational, you need that practice. So I think just along with the all those things, just keep on practicing on these aspects as well, because you never know, maybe the business school would like your speaking skills, and that would give you a brownie point if you're lacking in some other area as well. And along with that, also these schools, since they give a very huge importance to holistic growth, your personal interests and what you have been doing, contributing to the community, maybe like some volunteer work or something, if you may just take that up to strong, or to just upgrade your application to make your application strong, then definitely do go for it. So which is why I initially said you need those 2 years to think, because if you know, okay, I need to like make my application stronger, maybe you can just join some NGO or something, so that can also be a value additional work. You can maybe just work over there during the summer times, like maybe a 2 months or a 3 months part-time course. So that would also be some give some addition to your application. So yeah, so I think you have to like think from very different aspects, and not just focus on the score and just your normal professional life.
Gosh, that's such fantastic advice, Priyanka, that from decision, the day that you make the decision to apply, the day you actually end up applying or start starting, it's about a 2 year
Right,
process.
right,
What
right.
you mentioned was fantastic is that look at your application or look at your resume and see where are the gaps. Like, do I have leadership? Do I have community service? And I don't encourage people to do things just for the sake of doing it, just for the application. Obviously, it should be organic. You should want to do it,
Of course,
you
yeah.
know. But I agree with you that like leadership in particular, sometimes people are great leaders, they haven't had a chance to prove themselves.
Right, right.
And
No, because sometimes it does sorry to cut you in between, but sometimes it does happen. Like, for example, if I have to give you my example, when I was doing the course of chartered accountancy, you do not get time. You don't get time at all, because you have to like study for like 13, 14 hours a day. You have your internship with you. So with all those things, it's not possible maybe to actually, even if I organically want to do something for the community, it is not always possible that I get time during that particular phase. But then when I decided to maybe go for an MBA, and then when I started working, I knew now I have the time to actually put in maybe like at least 2 or 3 hours in the particular volunteering work. And I started doing that. So sometimes it does happen that you like the time doesn't permit you to do for it. But obviously it does have to come organically. It's not just for the applications. I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that people sort of forget the objective of doing the community service, that it's more to gain a bit of empathy and to when you're solving business problems of the future, because when you go to business school, you're often the leaders of future leaders of the world. You just want to make sure that you consider society and the larger impact. I think that's the main idea. And another thing you also said was what's important in the essays is the insights should come out. I think you mentioned that you don't have to have this like big company experience and like life-changing situations, but as long as you have a really interesting story with you and your manager or with you and someone, and the insights, the maturity comes out, that's often good enough for getting into a good business school.
Right. I think what all initiatives also you would have taken in your professional life or in your personal life, those things also would definitely matter. Like even the way I have been doing my pursuing dance since a very young age, and currently since last almost 5 years, I have been into Zumba. But I was initially learning Zumba, I eventually started leading the classes and also choreographing the performances. So that I was just doing out of my hobby because I really love doing that. But I think those things also do add a value to your application, because that was, I think, organically my leadership qualities were seen from those particular instances.
You're right. It's a fantastic example. Exactly. As you go deeper and deeper into a passion, your leadership comes out in the form of a hobby. And sometimes I agree, people will often undervalue the experiences like this and not realize that dance and Zumba it shows who you really are, and it's a great essay right there.
To each their own hobby. So for me, it was always dance, so I could do it in that particular field.
Cool. I'm going to ask you one last question. I know you already touched on it a little bit earlier, but maybe I'm going to ask you again. How did the red pen help you during the process?
Okay. So initially, the way I told you before, I just gave my GMAT. I had even thought about how the application process would be, or whether I would have to join some consultants or not. But one of my friend, he just suggested that there is this particular the red pen who do consult people, especially for the MBA students. And then I also Googled the red pen. I read some of the reviews, and almost every single review was fantastic. Every student was so satisfied about it. And this being one of my I think life-changing experiences or life-changing moment, I wanted to be associated with the best in the particular industry. So I just went for the red pen, and I got associated with Preeti. She was my lead consultant, and we have been working together since August 2022. So I think it has been almost like 4 months, I guess. So we have been working together, and from the very first day, the best thing what I liked about it is there is no single person associated with the entire process. Like Preeti is my lead consultant, but along with that, I have 2, 3 other people. One being responsible for my resume or the LinkedIn profile, the other being responsible for my LORs. So I think the entire thing is not just on one person's head. It is distributed. The responsibilities are distributed, because of which even if I know if some person is maybe not available, I can take advice from somebody else. And also a very important thing is everybody is really approachable. Like whenever I have any kind of doubts, I can just ask them, and I do get a reward from them maximum in a day, even if they are caught up. But I think that is very commendable. That is very much required also, because during this process, it might become so confusing at times, because we are going through this for the very first time. So you need some kind of advice, and they were always there with me. Also, another very important thing which I told you, getting those stories from you, because that does make a huge impact. That is one of the major components of any application. So like normally as any normal student, you would feel, okay, I do not have a very interesting or a very unique story. Whatever I have done, maybe 10 other people would have done. But then when I spoke to people from the red pen, and I spoke to Preeti, and while our conversation, she gave me examples of what all can be the stories, or what all the applicant, like the business school admission committee, does expect from you. So on that things I started thinking, and that is how I could actually think about, oh, this story fits this particular application well, this story fits that particular application well. So I think that credit definitely goes to the red pen. And she was like, Preeti was very transparent when the way she was with me. Like when she felt something was wrong or something was missing, she used to like not filter her words or something. She used to tell me upfront, which is a very good thing, because that helped me make my essays really better. So yeah, so TRP has been a huge contributor. Even while the interview, I got an invite for interview. I had a mock interview scheduled. Even that particular thing is very much needed because you don't have the practice of giving virtual interviews, especially the business interviews. Like of course, maybe job interviews a lot of people would have given, but the business interviews, business school interviews are very different. So I think you do require mocks and you do require practice and the suggestions also which I got on the basis of mocks that really helped me to ace my interviews, the actual interviews for the business. So yeah, so till now the journey has been great, and I know that even in the coming months when I'm going to apply in the second rounds and everything of that would also go off in a similar manner.
Well, hey, Priyanka, thank you so much for those words. The team would really appreciate that. And I want to also say, you from your insights, I can tell you're just a very impressive individual. So I actually want to see where life takes you. I feel like you might land up changing a lot of things and making a large impact in this world. So always stay in touch with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for your time, Priyanka.